I want to read what President Trump posted on Truth Social regarding the talks. He said that they were a quote, total reset negotiated in a friendly but constructive manner. We want to see, for the good of both China and the U.S., an opening up of China to American business. You're a student of history here. Do you think that we will realistically see China open up to American business?
No, I really don't think so. It was a point that if this were going to happen, it would have happened when China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. But for various reasons, it didn't happen. And it's just because the communist system really is resistant to foreign business. And sometimes, in the history of China, we have seen the regime open up, especially starting in 1978 with the beginning of the reform era, but not under Xi Jinping, who has a very different vision of China. His vision is much closer to 1950s China. His hero is Mao Zedong, and we are seeing Xi Jinping, I think, move China in that direction. He doesn't have the power to fully push China there, but that's where he can, and where he does have the power, that's what he's doing. So I don't think that President Trump's vision for China is the same as Xi Jinping's.
If China is so resistant to foreign business, what then are you looking out for the next 90 days? Do you think that the United States can really have meaningful negotiations with China then?
Well, we'll have meaningful negotiations, but I don't think they're going to produce a meaningful result, especially not within 90 days. And I think that China will just try to delay. Remember, China, with 90 days, basically its export factories are going to be producing for Christmas. This is great for China. And it really relieves a lot of the pressure that we have seen on the export sector. But I think China is going to say, well, at the end of the 90 days, we really need to have another 90 days. So I see them trying to delay this. I don't know what Trump will do in terms of a request for another delay. He would just have to wait. But remember, on TikTok, we actually have something. On TikTok, Trump gave an extension on his first day in office, and then he extended the extension. And so probably Xi Jinping is thinking that he can TikTok the United States on the trade talks as well.
Do you think that the United States and the team negotiating for the United States, do you think they're missing anything when it comes to China that perhaps you have some knowledge on?
Well, no, they've got far more knowledge than I do. I have a very different outlook on China, and a very different view of where it's going. So, but I don't know any more than they do by any means, because they've been involved in these discussions for quite some time. And I'm just an outside observer.
What then, as an outside observer that has plenty of expertise in this area, are you looking out for in this 90-day period?
I'm actually looking to see what Apple will do. It's very interesting that on the first of this month, Tim Cook said that during the current quarter, that most of the production of iPhones for the U.S. market will come from India. And he said the production for other devices, such as iPads, will come from Vietnam. That to me is really startling, because Apple has the most difficult to move supply chain. And if Apple can make that statement, then, basically anybody can move their supply chains. So I'll be watching what companies actually start to do during this 90 days, because although, companies may say, well, look, the US and China are going to settle things, I don't think they are, for the reasons we just discussed. And I think that companies are going to try to protect their supply chains by making sure they're not as reliant on China. Because if they do, if they still remain reliant on China, they could get to a point where they don't have a business because they can't bring products into the US. So just as a matter of business necessity, we'll be looking at how companies rearrange their supply chains.
Is China concerned hearing that, hearing Apple saying we're moving our supply chains, thinking that other companies might take a cue from Apple and move their supply chains out of China? I mean, how big of a concern should that be for China?
Oh, I think China is very concerned about that. We've seen China try to do its best to keep Apple inside China. And, there's a lot of turbulence now between Pakistan and India. I don't know, but I would just say this might not be a coincidence. We know that China has tried to tar India's image as a place for manufacturing. They've done that for years and years. Right now, I'm sure that people in Beijing are extremely concerned about Tim Cook's announcement.
Well, there is certainly a lot to look out for, especially in this 90-day temporary pause. And Gordon Chang, I always appreciate your perspective. I hope you can come back on and join me as we see more developments play out. Thank you so much for the time.
Well, thank you so much, Brittany.